the concept of settling down?
I was married before and then I got divorced, and my marriage was the most unsettling experience I've ever had. So when everyone said, oh, you finally settled down, I was like, nope, this does not feel like I've settled down at all. It's in fact the opposite. Also, do we ever settle down as humans?
Oh, that's such a great question. I don't think I've settled down.
If you're looking at yourself as an evolving being,
right,
then settling down means like everything stops.
Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria, and it is the month of March, which means we have a new co-host coming on. But before we do that, I gotta tell you some things happening in my life. I only have like 2 months to go before the book comes out, Ask a Matchmaker. And there's just a lot of things happening. Apparently, I'm going to go on a book tour. So cities will be announced in a few weeks. And if you are game, I hope to meet you in person. But also, if you've yet to, I really hope you consider pre-ordering my book before it comes out on May 20th. And let me tell you why. Your girl is desperate to change the dating environment of the United States and Canada. And the only way I'm going to do that is if that book has a New York Times bestseller at the top, so it becomes more popular. And in this manifesting fantasy that I'm doing right now, Oprah says, Maria, Matchmaker Maria, your book is on Oprah's book club. And then all of the dating landscape changes because this book is big. Maybe your girl gets a movie made out of this book. I mean, honestly, could you imagine? But it all starts with you. You have to help me get on those pre-orders because guess what? I found out that to become a New York Times bestseller, they count all of the orders prior to the book coming out and the first week of sales. That's it. That's all they count. So the only way it's going to happen is if you, my dear listener, who listens to this podcast for free every week, hops on over to your independent bookstore's website, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. It's $18. It's $18. All right, that's enough. I'm done selling myself. I appreciate you still listening. Let's start this episode. March co-host introduction. Kaneez Surka, welcome to the pod.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I'm actually just pre-ordering my book.
I love that.
Your matchmaker. Ask a matchmaker.
There it is. Ask a matchmaker.
I just ordered it. Here we go, guys.
You did it.
I did it.
You did it.
So let's get those pre-orders going.
Let's get those pre-orders going. You know, I never ask. And I feel like I should be asking, right?
Yes.
Because you don't know this. You don't follow me on Instagram, right?
I mean, now I will.
Now you will. Thank you.
I will. Sorry.
Thank you.
God,
while we're following here, I'm at Matchmaker Maria on Instagram.
Yes.
And what are you on Instagram?
At Kaneez Surka, just my name.
And I'm going to include that in the show notes.
Thank
so
you.
if people are listening while they're pre-ordering, they're going to follow you. And if they don't follow me already, weirdos, but why don't you go and follow me too? But I give a lot of free dating advice on my social media.
And we need that. So thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
But anyway, you are apparently, okay, not apparently.
Word around the street is.
You are a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Originally from South Africa.
Yes.
Moved here.
Moved to India.
And
then here.
Yeah. Were you a stand-up comedian in South Africa or India?
In India, not South Africa.
Okay.
I was like still very young when I moved to India. Like I was 21 and and then I started comedy after that. So.
What's the stand-up comedian scene in India?
Oh, it's very cool.
Is it cool?
It's like, it's a new scene and it blew up like when it started and now it's kind of, the bubbles kind of burst, but it's still it's big. It's a big scene. It's doing so well and it's just going to, it's going to go places.
I love that.
Also in terms of the numbers we have. It just really feeds into that whole industry.
And now you've moved to New York.
And now I've moved to New York City.
And when did you move here?
3 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I've gone from one third world country to another third world country to another third world country.
Sure.
I'm kidding, guys.
Hey, do you, and apparently you're a matchmaker too.
Okay, now I'm like very embarrassed because I said that, but it's not like I don't claim.
You said that to my producer before you knew what you were booking.
I mean, I knew I was coming on a show, but I wasn't aware that you did this full time. I thought this was something you did on the side like me. And then when I learned that you do this full time, I'm like, oh my God, she's like a real one.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? What do you do?
Well, here's the thing. Okay. I try to matchmake, but it's actually, I'm an informal matchmaker.
That's okay.
And so is my mom and so is my gran. It's actually in our blood.
Same.
it goes down in our family, and we've all been unofficial matchmakers. No one's ever taken it as seriously. My gran was probably the most serious one, but we've all match-made people. My mom's had like 5 successful matches. My gran's had I don't even know how many, and I've had 0. But the point is that I have the need to bring people together.
I love that. Do you do anything creative to bring people together?
I think I need to work on that. I think sometimes I'm a little just too that I don't have the skill yet. Like I have the want, but I think my skill needs working on, because sometimes I'm just a little too like, you guys should date.
Why do you think they should date? Tell me about the last couple that you set up.
Well, it didn't work out.
Sure, okay.
But I just felt like they were, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I haven't honed this skill and this power.
The intuition.
Yeah. And so I can't pinpoint what it is, but I know it's not coming from my head. It's coming from somewhere else where I'm like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But then I also ruin it.
How do you ruin it?
Because I'm like, in front of them, I'll make them like, I'll make it so obvious, and I'm not tactful.
It never works when you do it like that.
Of course not. So, which is why I've had 0.
See, the best way to do it is when they're not expecting it. Like you just invite everyone over for a barbecue.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you don't talk to them at all about the people. Just let them
find each other.
Let them think it was their idea.
Okay.
Right? Don't even let them sit next to each other.
Right.
Just be like, oh, peripherally, we are at the same event.
So no, like, ooh.
No, not even.
Obviously.
And then 3 hours later, then when we're all sitting together playing cards.
Yeah. For humanity.
Yeah, whatever. Or poker. It's like, oh, sit together. And then now it's like, now they get to know each other and they think it's their idea because of like, happenstance. Like, oh, we have to sit next, we're sitting next to each other because those are the 2 empty
it's
seats.
Like a meet cute.
Not because I didn't think about this and discuss it with my husband to death for like 3 weeks prior. But that's just the way you do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've totally done what you do because I just want to be like, if I'm out and I'm like, yes.
Guys, we don't have time. Okay. We're busy.
Latch. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's also my approach to my dating life.
So tell me about your dating life. I want our listeners to get to know our co-hosts. Yes. And I love it when every first episode that we have a new co-host, we get to know all about the person.
Right.
You have told us that you are in your Decentering Men era.
Yes, I am.
Before you tell us what that means, how did we get here?
I think I heard this word somewhere, and then it just made sense to me. Either on social media, or a friend mentioned it, or I read it somewhere, and I was like, "Oh, this makes sense to me." But how we got to this place was, wait, this is only a 35-minute podcast. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep it short.
Speed it up. Let's go.
Heartbroken. No, I'm kidding. I was married when I was very young. I got married when I was 24.
Did you?
In India.
Was this arranged by your mom?
It was arranged from his side and love from my side.
What?
I have to explain to everyone what that means. Basically, what it means is, like, for him, I ticked all the boxes.
What are the boxes?
Like, I was from his community. Mm-hmm. I had like all the boxes that he wanted in a wife, like that he thought would make a good wife. I was, I was cool. I was, I don't know, like little things that he wanted in a wife. And I loved him. Like, I don't come from a family. We come from a family of matchmaking in the sense, like my mom and my gran are really like big believers in love.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they really believe in love. That's why they're unofficial, because they're like, they only want to do love matches. And
that's hard.
And they don't care about race, religion, age, anything. It's just like when they see that 2 people need to be together, they want to bring them together.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of upbringing I came up in. So I was like, oh, I love this guy. He came from a more pragmatic approach where he's like, I need a wife who has these qualities. And so that's where I say arranged from his side.
Follow-up questions. You were 23 when you met him?
I was 24. Yeah, 23 when I met him. And 24.
And how old was he?
He was 6 years older than me, so 29.
Okay. And do you or him participate in any faith or religion?
He follows Islam. Okay. And I come from a Muslim family, but we don't follow any religion. So that was also a big disconnect in our relationship, where he thought
Was that on his wife list?
Kind
Must
of,
be
yeah.
Muslim?
Yeah, well, practice Islam because he believes in that and he wanted his
Practice
children.
Islam.
Yeah, like be a Muslim, a practicing Muslim. So, which is totally fair, but that was our point of contention. Because I was like, I'm not going to be practicing. And he's like, I want our children to grow up in this faith. And I was like, well, I can't be the one to teach them that. I don't know much about it myself,
Right.
you know. So that was that was a big
But how, from the moment you met until you got married, how many
date that we were to get on and off.
I was going to say months and you said dates?
Yeah, I know. A year and a half.
Shit.
On and off.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
what? This is not arranged marriage.
No,
era.
exactly. It wasn't arranged.
Okay.
I just say arranged because I feel like arranged is more like when you tick the boxes.
Sure.
As opposed to love marriage when you fall in love.
Sure.
Right? Oh, that's
The lore.
interesting. What do you call not a love marriage?
I feel like it's like 3 months.
Okay.
And like, look, if there's, in my experience, and not professionally, because I've never arranged a marriage that I'm aware of.
Oh.
Right? Like I'm a proper love matchmaker, right?
Oh,
like
cool.
I want
Okay,
my
got
clients
it,
to date and fall in love, and hopefully, a year and a half down the line, I get a phone call like, we're engaged, we're married, right?
See, already I just assumed you were a matchmaker for marriages because that's the culture I come
Oh,
from.
anyone who's hiring me is most likely getting married and having
Right.
kids. But I'm not an arranged marriage matchmaker.
Yeah,
My grandmother was.
Oh, okay.
Right? And in that, it was very quick, right? Because the things that you need to discover about someone in today's time, especially if you're meeting off the internet, which would take a longer time, is like, what are your values? What's your moral compass? How do you feel about religion and faith and your participation? And like these things, you need to show those habits when you meet someone that you have no connection with. But if you think about my grandmother, and I'm assuming your grandmother, right?
Yeah.
They probably grew up in a homogeneous community where everyone shares in a very similar lifestyle, similar value sets being passed on within the community or sub-community.
Yes.
Not necessarily similar habits, but complementary habits, because all of these communities at the end of the day they're all economic communities.
Yeah.
So I think what my grandmother did, and what I assume your grandmother did, is like you try to find two people that are not only going to become a family, but a person comes with a family.
Exactly.
So you're trying to match in a new economy, because we can't look at Amazon right now, right? Like back then, who you married meant, okay, this is now the new things I have access to.
Yes.
In my own family economy.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And I've now just described the history of marriage for many cultures, many regions of this world, including Europe.
Yeah.
Right. Like why marriage was created to begin with. So anyway, so with that said, when you said before about like, like arranged marriage, I'm thinking, like in 3 months. And you're like, no, we dated for a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. My bad.
So no, I love it.
It's
like that's modern. That's great. So, but then, okay, so you got married.
Yeah.
Did you or him want to have kids?
Yeah, we did want to have kids, but we didn't get.
But you didn't get that far. How long were you married for?
I was married for 3 years, and we had like a bunch of stuff that happened in the marriage. So I don't even think we could brought up kids because we were really struggling with our marriage from day one.
Really?
From the day of our wedding.
Wait, you weren't struggling before you?
Before we got married. And then I was very young and I thought, okay, well, marriage will fix the problems.
Like what problems? Can we talk about them?
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Like we weren't like being intimate as often as I thought we should be being intimate. We weren't aligned on our religious beliefs. We were fighting all the time. Like, I remember like before marriage, he like loved that I was like, when we were dating, he loved that I was a party girl. And then suddenly he was like, I don't like this whole party side of yours. And again, well, he wasn't like, that didn't come from a religious place, but it just came from us now trying to, when we just realized we wanted to be each other's husband and wife, we try to make each other our ideas of what a husband and wife would be. So in the beginning when you're dating and you're not like taking it seriously, you can like the person for who they are. But then when you like, oh, I think that I want this person to be part of my life for the rest of my life, then you're like, okay, then I need to start changing the things that, molding this person to who I want, and we all know now that you can never change someone. You have to accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
But I was young.
We were young. It's not your core identity, right? Like you can be the fun girlfriend. And then, you become a wife. If you're a fun girlfriend, then you're going to be the fun wife too. It doesn't just
stop.
Certainly, like I think, oh my God, anytime I see videos of people at the club now, I'm like, I don't even have, you could pay me $1 million.
What club? Oh, nightclubs.
See?
What clubs?
Like
country clubs.
Nightclubs. Like, oh, this DJ's playing. And I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no one in my life who's been to a nightclub in the last 5. I don't know. I didn't even know nightclubs still exist. I thought I thought it had changed to like bars and.
I went to a club. I want to say 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, same.
I was invited to someone's going away party, and it's like, oh, it's at this club on 23rd Street or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Now, I lived in Greece from age 18 to 23. I grew up in that club culture, which is a shitload of fun.
You lived in Greece?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is what it is,
okay.
Right?
Right.
But like I grew, like once I left, then I came to the States. Maybe I went to like, I don't know. You only came here 3 years ago, but there's the clubs like the Marquee and Pasha, and I'd want to see like a certain DJ. I would go.
Okay.
But then I don't know. I turned like 30, and my knees hurt. I have like no drink tolerance.
How old are you?
I'm 40 now.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought you said
it like that.
No, because you said I turned 30, and I was like, wow.
No.
That's amazing.
God, I'm the oldest looking 30-year-old. Anyway, but like they were talking about like 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah,
so like, I was like, and the thing is, between the time that I went to go see like, let's say Tiesto, or ATB at Pasha, and then when I was invited to someone's going away party, smartphones had come out,
right?
And the experience was so weird to me because then we're talking about 10 years ago, forget now, where it's like everyone was taking photos, whereas like I don't take any photos of me. Let me just do my thing, and it was just very surreal. Like, and also I didn't know what the music was. Yeah. And I just felt so old at 30.
Makes sense. Like you're just like, wow, and exposed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, wait, you come here to like disappear from the world, dance, do your thing, dance like no one's watching, especially nightclubs because and suddenly everyone's taking photographs and you're like, oh, this is not how, anyway.
And the other thing that I also noticed is because of the smartphones, people weren't flirting in the way that I remember what clubs used to be like. Yeah. So for all my young listeners, I remember when I was, let's say 23 and I would go to a club.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for my friends to go to the bathroom because that guy that I've been like, eye fucking essentially this whole time. He's gonna come over. He's gonna buy me a drink. We're gonna chat. Maybe we'll make out. Like we're at a club, you know.
Yes.
And then whatever happens. And here, I mean, now I'm at this club with my now husband, but at the time he was my boyfriend. And no, don't boo him. He's
no.
I was not there like as a single woman, but I was looking at the single women in the party to see like what are they doing. And look, I get it. We don't want a lot of men to bother us.
Yeah.
Right. But we're also really distracted by our phones. Like people were taking selfies. They weren't looking at people in the way of like curiosity. And I was just like, man, this is so different.
But also, I do want to bring up that point where you said, I don't want to be disturbed, because that's how I'm feeling a little bit in this day and age. And maybe after the whole Me Too, the whole Me Too thing that happened, I feel like I don't want men to approach me. I'm feeling a lot more protective of myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I maybe sometimes give off a vibe of like, don't even fucking come near me. Don't talk to me.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't want you to think you're entitled to me.
Right.
Because it was different when we were like younger and growing up. Like we also didn't understand what it meant when a guy would like feel entitled to us. We didn't think of it that way.
No, we didn't.
And now we've learned that you've actually crossed a boundary. Even like men, like in clubs, like putting their hand in my lower back,
right,
and things like that. Like now I get like, I'm like, who said you could touch me? Like,
right.
Actually, this is not okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a little bit of
we've changed.
As a society, we've changed, and we're also more knowledgeable about boundaries now, and we can feel them. And I can't unsee it. Right. I can't unfeel it now.
Right.
And I let so much go when I was younger. I didn't even think it was, crossing a boundary. So now I do kind of like a little bit more like on my phone, my headphones on.
This is you decentering men.
And maybe is that what it is?
Well, yeah.
Sorry, this is such a new thing for me, decentering men. But I'm just like, there's other things that I want to do with my life. And I focus so much on men. When I say decentering men, I feel like it's been such a huge theme of my life. It's like either not having a man or having a man. Like it's just always taken up so much of my mind space. Whether I'm single or I'm with somebody, it doesn't matter because it's just centered around men.
Right.
And yeah, in the last 2 months, and I'm so glad when you guys messaged me to be on this podcast, because I was like, this is something I've been toying with, and I haven't fully understood what it means, but I'm just not interested in making them the main theme of my day.
Well, let me ask you a question, because this is something that I feel like I've always been aware of for myself, but I think more women might become more aware of it. True or false?
Yes.
Your validation, your self-respect, your validation as yourself, is not dependent on a man.
Correct. Anymore.
There you go. And when did that stop? Was that 2 months ago when you were like, fuck it?
I think it's always a process. But I did read this book.
What book?
It's called Calling in the One.
Oh, yes.
By Catherine Woodward Thomas. Yes.
Yeah. That's a great book.
It is a great book.
It's a book I read this more than 10 years ago. So, this is how did you even, that's such an oldie but a goodie.
Someone mentioned it. I went through a breakup a year and a half ago, and I was really distraught because I just moved here. I met this person, and then I just felt like one of my pillars so I was very distraught in general. And then I was like, I was choosing emotionally unavailable men.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I break this pattern? Because I was aware it was a pattern. And I was just like, I feel like I've been doing therapy. I'm aware of this, but I'm still attracted to men. And then someone mentioned this book, and I was like, what have I got to lose?
Right.
And I did this book, and it was wonderful. It's like it's 7 weeks, and every day you have to do like an exercise. Either you write or do something every day. It was a 7-week course. It took me 7 months. It just took me a long time to get through it. But I got through it. I finished it. I went to the end. And after that, the first person I dated was emotionally available. I'm not saying this is like a magic book. I'm not saying but it did change something in me.
I think what Calling in the One does really well is that it does teach you that when you have a list of no-nos, then that is what you will attract. But when you have a list of, here's what I want my life to look like.
Right.
It makes the vision, like the finding thing, like it just hyper focuses on like what you actually want versus what you don't want.
Absolutely.
And I've always loved that book. I think that's such a fantastic book, and I'm really happy you read it. Okay. So to go back now, we were married 3 years in. I mean, you always had problems, you're telling us. At what point were you like, who called it quits?
I called it quits, but we were both happy too. I don't think he would have done it. He's a very sweet guy. He really is. Okay. I don't think he would have pulled the trigger, but I was just like, we need to get outies of this. And he was like, yeah, okay. And so we got divorced in India.
And you mentioned to me out before we started recording, but I do want you to explore this more, is the concept of settling down.
Yes. And the reason why I don't think marriage is necessarily a way of settling down in life is because I had the most unsettling experience of my life when I got married. It was the most unsettling experience. And I was like, so, I'm not saying marriage isn't an experience, settling down, but also, do we ever settle down as humans?
Oh, that's such a great question.
I
don't think I've settled down.
No, if you're looking at yourself as an evolving being,
right,
and growing and evolving and into or expanding, then settling down means like everything stops.
Right. I feel like I have a teammate in life with the person that I married.
Right.
But I don't think either of us have
settled.
No,
because I think you have like a stronger foundation maybe to jump off of. Maybe.
I feel like we kind of root each other's personal ambitions, be it personal or professional or physical, spiritual.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never thought of it that way. But I've also never used the words like settle down.
Yeah, I think it's used in my culture a lot. Because
it's used in American culture too. Like, when are you going to settle?
When are you going to settle down?
Or even settle down. Or they'll even say like, just settle.
Right.
And I don't know if it's about, I've always said I don't think I've ever said professionally, like just settle.
Yeah.
But I have said, oh my God, just latch.
Right.
And what I mean by that is like, sometimes I feel like some of my clients, or maybe even listeners of this show, they can identify who's a good person, and it's right there. And then that person can also like them.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get so hyper focused on like fear of missing out, or he does this one thing, and I'm like, oh my God, just latch, just like fall in love and just send to the sun, because you don't know, like, and life is so unpredictable.
Then the truth is, there's always going to be something. Someone's always going to be something that gives you the ick, or it just doesn't just feel right with you. But I guess you then have to be like, can I learn to live with that one thing?
Right.
You can't just shut someone down. I think we are very quick, and I was too, to just shut people down and be like, nope, you're out. And now I'm like, no, people are humans. Like, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect,
right.
you know? Yeah,
like, we'll have like mental health struggles sometimes.
Mental health struggles,
and
personality stuff.
Yeah, I see how like my husband, he's discovered that he has like a mental health struggle, and he's not saying like, oh, I need some me time to figure this. He's like, no, here's the book that I'm reading to get better. Can you read it too? So we have the same vocabulary as we try to like figure this part out.
Oh, I love that.
And it's been interesting to kind of like I've learned when he gets like a lot of anxiety and he makes this like face.
Yeah.
It's a little spaced out. I'm like, I just won't talk to him for a couple of hours until he comes to me, like, because what am I going to say to him? Like, he knows, right? Like, I've told him, we've had this conversation. I'm like, I'm just not going to talk to you until you figure out what you want to say to me. And I'm not punishing him. It's just him understand, like, he needs to sort out what's going on in his head without me trying to solve it. Yeah. Like, I want him to like tell me, come back and be like, okay, here's what I've been thinking the last 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, how do you feel? Like,
I was going to say, that's really awesome, because I was going to say, doesn't that take a toll on you then? But if you're not trying to fix it, when you're trying to fix things, that's when it takes a toll on you. When you're just
did take a toll in the beginning when we didn't know what was happening, because I didn't know. George didn't know. My husband, that's his name. He didn't know that he was suffering from debilitating anxiety. Like, it was showing up in a different format, right?
Interesting. Okay.
And when we figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, but I love what you said before about like, that you have like a renewed way of looking at relationships, essentially.
Yeah, it's not. It's like there's one part of decentering men, but also if a man is in my life, this whole idea of settling down and finding the one and being like breathing out and like bring out a sigh of relief, like finally. Like, I just don't think that's true anymore, because even in your relationship, you're going to have to work. You're both going to be growing and evolving, and I don't think there's there's no. Yeah, I think this idea of a sigh of relief and like, I'm done looking, I'm done. That's not.
Even if you find, like, it's always interesting because people will find the match and like, okay, I'm done. I go, no. This is when the work begins. This is step one.
Like you and your husband, like finding out he has anxiety after you got married, I'm assuming?
Like 8 years after we got married.
Exactly. And then now figuring that. So
kids.
That's not settling. That's not settled down. That's not. Yeah. Now you have to figure this out and work around this. And so.
Learning triggers.
Exactly.
Learning what happens when I'm not there, when there's like an episode happening, like,
and all of that. And I think like if you went in with the expectation of settle down, then this is going to throw you off. You're gonna be like, what? We were supposed to just like trudge along like happily, whatever, skip along the yellow brick road. I don't know, it's not
that's
that.
so funny because I'm wearing an Elton John shirt that you said that. But what's interesting too is learning about your spouse in this way, and then discovering from his therapist that this is genetic. Oh. And I'm like, oh, that's why your dad's the way he is.
Oh, lovely.
Like that explains
now you understand
so
everybody.
Much. Yeah, because nice. Like I've had to teach my husband to not make self-deprecating jokes to my father-in-law, because my father-in-law does not understand that it's a joke. So he'll just think of the worst thing. Oh,
okay. And then
it's like, and then it just spirals from there. And I'm like, you can't do that again.
Yeah.
Because now you got to manage your father.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like, so just don't go down that road.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
So he's also learning like how he has to act around other people. All right.
That's fascinating.
So what are you hoping over the next month to learn here? I don't think I've ever asked a co-host that question before.
I know. Thank you. I do want to learn.
But you said a lot of really great things in this episode.
Yeah.
And I really want to meet those things, right? Because you did talk about decentering men and this new
era.
path.
Sorry?
This new path.
Yes, this new path.
We talked about anxiety. At least I did.
Yes.
But tell me what you
also
hope
suffer
to
from.
learn in this.
I mean, I think I want to understand what I also just want to learn from you, and you also have like a lot of experience in your relationship. But yes, how to, even when I am in a relationship, how to manage this, and tying in with this idea of unsettling, like where you're not settled down. I'm sorry, I'm not articulating this correctly, but what I mean is like just you talking about how you deal with your husband's anxiety and mental health is just so fascinating. I'm like, you know, it just reiterates to me like that when you get into a relationship, you're going to have to maneuver a lot and communicate. I'm guessing you guys communicate really well.
Fucking hell yeah.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
Like people say they throw out communicate, and we all know that communication is important, but I don't think all of us know how to communicate.
You know, the thing that's always, I was thinking about this on my way here, but like the thing that frustrates me the most is when people say like, oh, marriage is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not.
Okay. Because that's where I'm.
But
I think everything's a lot of work.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Parenting is work. But I don't think
my
of
work is work.
But
Everything's
I've never
work.
thought of my husband as a job. But I think what that word is missing is team. Marriage is teamwork.
That's a nice way of looking at it.
Because that's my teammate.
Yeah.
Like I have to be there when he's at his low. He has to be there when I'm at my low. I have to be there when he's high and he's at my high. We're like, we have to, we're only as happy as the least happy person in the team, right? And as a result of that teamwork, it's also like how we make decisions of, you know, where we're going on vacation, how we're spending our money, how we're spending our weekends. Like the team has to be, and now that team has like two other teammates, I suppose. Yeah. But the core, the captains are me and George.
Do you approach all your relationships with this kind of idea? Like your relationship with your parents? No, I would never
think about my relationship with my parents or my sister as work.
A team? No, like do you have a separate team relationship with your best friend? Are you a different team? With your parents, are you a different team? With your sibling, are you a different team?
No, those are cooperations.
okay.
Co-ops, let's call them, right? Like because
co-ops are harder to get into.
I'm a stakeholder in those relationships, right?
Okay,
but
so you really view your husband and
I'm only on one team. That's Team Penguin. That's what we call ourselves.
So because of Decentering Men, I'm on many teams.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's where I'm like, oh, actually, all my relationships, I'm a team with different relationships in my life then.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm exploring currently.
I love that. I think I'm only on one team because that's the team that has my highest priority.
Right.
And everything else is like cooperation, right?
Yes.
Like my parents live with me, right? I take care of my parents, right? And
yes,
you're probably thinking I'm more Indian than you, and I get it.
I know. I'm like, I was like, are we sisters?
Yeah. We had other conversation before we started recording, and
she knows she's very well versed with the Indian culture, by the way. And I'm not.
I want that on.
She knows what Gujaratis are like. She knows what Tamils are like. She's been to Chennai. She's like, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have a lot of masala in my cup or two. That's my husband doing it. But anyway, no, but like I feel like when I look at my parents, that's a proper cooperation. Because we have to figure it out. We have to figure out like, how does this day end where everyone's remotely happy? You know?
Yes.
Not necessarily unhappy, but like we've met the goals of the day, but also with my friends, right? Like I have, and I have a diverse set of friends, like in the sense of some are married, some have kids, some are married with no kids, and some have no relationship status, or maybe they're boyfriend and girlfriend, right? Yeah. Like, and as a result, it's like, you still have to give these people the same amount of respect.
Yeah.
You know, based on whatever outcome they've, have in their life, so I try to support them in that cooperation.
Okay. That's a lovely way of looking at it as well. No, and I think you are, obviously we're coming from two different places because I'm single and you're married.
I love that you're doing that.
Well, this is how I want to approach my life moving forward. And I don't believe there's one way to do anything. Obviously, we're all aware of that.
I'm not, and I'm certainly not the gold standard.
No, exactly. No, there's no one way of doing things. But whatever path you choose to take, I think regardless, communication is very important.
Yeah. And I will say, if there was one piece of advice I could give to anyone listening, is that like, if you want to know if that person's the one for you to marry, ask yourself if they make a good teammate.
Yeah.
Because if they're not a good teammate, if they can't communicate with you.
Yes.
And if they're jealous of you, and if they're threatened by you, and if they're intimidated by like these weird verbs. That's not what a teammate does. Then that's not your teammate. Like you can't win in the game of life. With a teammate who sabotages you.
And you say teammate, and I'm an improviser because I do stand up and I do improv, and I always think of like, do I want to be in an improv scene with this person?
All right.
Is this person going to steamroll the scene? Is he going to put all the onus on me to come up with all the ideas in the scene? Is he going to try and make himself look like the star in the scene? Or is he also going to give me like, like improv is like it's a constant like, throwing and catching the ball. Yes, and it's a constant give and take in a scene. And when you have
making me think of The Office when Michael Scott steamrolls everybody. And he always has a gun.
In his scene, exactly. And they're mocking a steamroller in the scene, So you don't want to, when I think about a partner, I think about, would this partner make a good improv?
Oh,
could we do an improv scene together and really like build something? Because what I love about improv is like, I come with my own idea, you come with your own idea, but both of us eventually have to drop our ideas and create it, or bring a little bit of those ideas and create an idea that neither of us could have thought of on our own.
I love that.
That's what a good improv scene is.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that we all have our own ways of our own words and our own environments that make us comfortable to make sense of our reality. Totally. That is amazing. Well, listen, Kaneez, I am so excited to have you as our co-host for the month of March. We're going to be learning so much from other people coming on the show too. So listen, Kaneez.
Yes.
I want everyone to go follow you, Kaneez Surka.
That's it. Just
on Instagram.
Yes.
And do you have any shows coming up that we can promote in
March?
Yeah,
I'm actually shooting my special on the 30th of March.
Like what kind of special?
Like it's just a stand-up special.
No, I got that. I mean, like, or is it going on YouTube?
It's
Netflix?
going on YouTube. It's going on YouTube. It's called I Found My People. And I do discuss who my people are, since I don't have a nuclear family, then who becomes my people. And I'm discussing all the stuff that we're talking about. Like
that is amazing.
I found my people. And from the perspective of identity, like I'm from all these different countries. And then also I don't have a nuclear family. I don't have children. Then who are my people? And so I explore that in this special that I'm recording.
I cannot wait to listen to it.
Thank you.
And everyone go follow Kaneez on Instagram.
Thank you so much, guys. And don't forget to pre-book your book.
Pre-order my book.
Pre-order. Pre-book. Pre-order.
Pre-book it too.
Maria's book.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, well, that's it for this week's episode. Join us again next week with Kaneez and another guest.
Yay.
Where we get to learn more about attachment styles.
Yay.
It's happening.
I love that topic.
I love that topic too. That's it. Be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.